We're going to take one more question. Right here, Clodagh.
Jerry Duffy. You go, Jerry.
I believe you know about this program as well, don't you?
A little bit. I think when Kenny asked his first question, was there anything on the agenda here that we're looking at that we're missing? I think we, although we've identified all the key issues internally, I think the one thing we need to always ask ourselves when we answer any of these questions is really what business we're in. And, someone may say, well, I'm an owner, I'm a trainer, I'm a racetrack owner, but all of us collectively are in the entertainment business. And I think that's overlooked at times. So I just think that, when people are answering questions, when we're talking about the issues that face us, it's important to keep that in mind. So I suppose I'd like to ask the Breeders' Cup NTRA representative, maybe the racetrack operator, and maybe public perception, or maybe the media person, how do they define their roles, and how do they see them as, or is there any conflicts there between that and being in the entertainment business?
Thanks, Jerry.
Just to clarify, so do you want us to define, see how, if our role, as a Breeders' Cup NTRA person, if it conflicts with our role as providing an entertainment product?
Well, I suppose what I'm trying to get at is for someone, for say a racetrack operator or a casino operator, they get channeled into their business of horse racing. I suppose what the question I'm asking is, how does the business of horse racing currently offer value to the general public as a means of entertainment? What are they competing with? What are what else is out there that you have to compete with, and how do you do that?
Okay, well, on behalf of the Breeders' Cup, as you know, I think everyone within the American racing industry, and perhaps Europe and most continents worldwide, would agree that it has established itself almost for over a decade, perhaps 2 decades, as the leading championship race. But where we are struggling is to compete, because within the horse industry we've established ourselves, but when we compare ourselves to, we are in fact an entertainment event, a sports event, and so our main competition is trying to compare ourselves against the NFL, Super Bowl, like the NCAA, like the Final Four, the NASCAR. Those are really the ones we need to try to compare ourselves against. And as you know, in recent years, the popularity of horse racing has fell quite far compared to these. And we need to follow in the suits of people like NASCAR and stuff, in terms of learning how to really learning how to really find out what the customers want, the customers being the bettors and the fans. Because whereas the bettors obviously increase our handle, the fans are the ones that, if we increase the public following with racing, those are the ones that will bring in the advertising, which for a company like the Breeders' Cup, I'll talk about it later on a little bit more, but I mean, our real potential in terms of increasing in size for the Breeders' Cup and for racing in general is to, by increasing the following and the public of us, we'll then increase our TV ratings and actually be able to get back on TV. And that's where, as a sporting event, an entertainment event, the real money lies, and where we'd be able to then fund, the Breeders' Cup itself will be able to fund, and the NTRO will be able to fund racing and marketing campaigns within racing a lot more than it can at present.
As a racetrack operator, we would face many of the same problems that James just identified. And I think part of it is we have to redefine horse racing as a sport. Many people might not even consider it a sport sometimes. And it is. I mean, it's a huge sport. I don't think any of us would argue with that. And we do need to get it to attract the fans to the racetracks and to attract more horse players, to take already made gamblers and make them horse players and not just card players or what have you. And he also mentioned getting ourselves on TV. As a racetrack, right now, we're having to pay for the TV coverage. And when we need to reverse that, we need to make ourselves so appealing that the TV companies want us, and they want to come after us to get our product televised.
Well, sorry, I better say something before I get in trouble with Clodagh, I suppose. But from a TV and radio point of view, I couldn't agree with you more. The competition against the likes of the NFL, NASCAR, it's overshadowed horse racing, and it's kind of put it on the back burner in terms of a general public scale on TV. We kind of need to make the racing more accessible and better, easy to understand on TV. You know, horses are retired by the age of 3. You know, if they ran on a bit longer, like Zenyatta, you know, you'd have a bigger following, you'd get more fans in, and you'd possibly generate a lot more people involved into the game. With that as well, you know, racing can sometimes be seen as there's only a few quality races on at certain times of the year, and they don't normally get the coverage they need. There probably needs to be more national TV put out there on them, and unfortunately, it's just it'll need to get more exposure.
From the public perception view, I think along the similar lines to all the other guys, the role of horse racing has to be to connect with its fan and to allow them to connect with the personalities and the stories of the horses, trainers, owners that got there, and the highs, the lows. And I think when people connect with the stories, they can empathize, and that's how you get fans.
Just to continue, just to finish off before Brianne looks like she's going to say something, because I feel what Jerry brings up is very important. Another area where I think we've mentioned NASCAR on the sports sides, but another industry which we can take hints from is the casino industry. And obviously they are the absolute kings or champions within America in terms of knowing how to look after the gambler and the gambling dollar. And I mean, we already have many partnerships within America with casinos. And so I think we just need to make sure that whenever we are making these partnerships, that we actually, you know, we make use of their expertise in hospitality and, you know, and looking after the gambling customer. Like for instance, right now with New York about opening up, Aqueduct about opening up their casino there. I mean, I see the predictions on that are they're going to bring in somewhere near $60 million worth of revenue that can be used on marketing. And I think we just need to make sure that, you know, that money is used not only to market the casino, but also to market the industry and racing to what will be, you know, New York tri-state area, the biggest metropolitan area in the world, because that offers a huge potential for, you know, bringing extra racing fans and people into the industry.
From a wagering perspective, I was just going to say that I think you bring up a good point, Jerry, that it's kind of a dilemma that the racing industry faces, whether we identify ourselves as a sport or as a gambling activity, and it's very hard to be both and to market ourselves as both, because we're competing in two, you know, quite different industries. As a sport, we're competing against, as James said, NBA, NFL, golf, NASCAR, and as a gambling activity, we're competing against casinos and lotteries and poker and things like that. So, yeah, it's just a dilemma to try to figure out, you know, where do we want to focus our marketing more. And from my perspective, I think that obviously we make our money, or the majority of our money, from the wagering side of it. Aside from a few television contracts for perhaps the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup races, the vast majority of the money comes from the wagering side. So I think that we definitely need to focus more on marketing ourselves as a gambling activity and trying to compete with other more popular forms of gambling. So,
I believe that there needs to be more incentive for a racetrack to put on the entertainment. Currently, the way that the pari-mutuel system is set up, it can be racetracks often lose money putting on that entertainment, and the smaller racetracks can actually be better off by just simulcasting races, and they run it as a business that way, and there's no incentive for them to put on races for the local horsemen.
One last word before we move on, just to disagree with, from the Breeders' Cup and NTRA's perspective with Brianne, well, from the Racino's perspective, is that I feel that we should be using the casinos. We are the only, America is in a very fortunate position where racing is the only sport you allow gambling, you know, that has betting on it. So in that way, amongst the sporting, industry, we actually have no competition. So we need to be able to use that extra revenue we're receiving from betting, which obviously at the moment is our major revenue, and use that to then market horse racing to increase our TV ratings and things like that, and the general following of racing, so that we can actually get more money from advertising, which entire industries such as NASCAR and the NFL are funding themselves on.
Thank you very much, panel. How about a hand for these Dazzling dozen. Great job.